let's talk about the LSU running game, Jeremy. That's something you're very, very qualified to speak on. Brian Kelly had a few sound bites about it yesterday, and the first is about John Emery and how he's coming along and progressing.
The physical run was amazing, right? You know, I think we still have to settle him down a little bit in the passing game. He had the nice catch, obviously, up the sideline, soft hands. He needs to play with that kind of, calmness in the passing game. He got a little antsy the other time where he dropped it, but he's coming along. We can see it coming, and I just think it's just more reps for him, and he'll continue to settle in nicely.
Jeremy, I know football coaches. Haven't been around them as much as you, but I've covered them and studied their moves very closely. They prefer safe to potential. When John Emery's dropping the ball, John Emery's slanty in pass protection, maybe not in the right spot, fumbles a football, that's going to drive you nuts. And if you think they're going to hand it off to Josh Williams, and if they block it for 6, he's going to get 6. They block it for 3, he's going to get 3, and he's going to be in the right place for pass protection, that's the guy they're going to play.
Yeah, 100%. It's not rocket science. And if I know Frank Wilson the way I know him, that's the first way you'll earn yourself a nice little beautiful spot right there on the pine, and you probably won't be seeing much action after that. But I think you could see the talent of Emery, especially with him kind of knocking those cobwebs off. You know, I've watched all the backs this season. He's making the big guys miss, the SEC guys, the 4 stars, the guys who are going to these Power 5 schools. Those are the guys he's making miss, not Southern, not New Mexico. He's making those flash plays in those type of games, and so you could see the 5-star potential there. But like Coach Kelly said, that's just the last thing you can afford, especially as you get later on in the season. Turnovers can really kill you, and that almost killed you last week's game. If Auburn goes down and scores a touchdown, then we know who the GOAT would be in this town going into this week. But for John, take care of the football. You know, don't try to press too much, because I think we all know he should definitely be the lead back. I think he just has the most potential to make those big-time plays, and that's what I think this offense desperately needs.
But fumbles.
Well, we had one side of the line going left and the other side of the line going right. That's not a good thing. And so what actually ended up happening on the play was the backside lineman was pulling, he was not supposed to be pulling. And John didn't expect it and got run into, and the ball came loose.
So that's just a disaster of epic proportions by everybody involved there. You got linemen going the wrong way. You got a running back that's confused by that. Then he's not paying attention to the football, which he should be, and you drop it. And it was at such a ridiculous time in the game because LSU had just gotten a takeaway and was right there to put the thing away, and then you turn it over. And so the talent is not negotiable. He's bigger, faster, stronger, has the highlight reel plays, all that. I just think you're going to see a ton of Williams because they can trust where he's going to be. And I've spent a lot of time yearning for the more talented running back to play, and the safer one gets it out there. And I've told Jacob this a million times. And it turns out Les was 100% right to have Hester out there. But I'm looking at Charles Scott and Keelan Williams and Trenton Holiday, and I'm going, why do we keep giving the ball to 18? He runs for like 4 yards. And it was right, because 18 was awesome. And he got you the tough yards. He ran as hard as anybody, and they sprinkled in the other guys. And, of course, at that point, I'm 20 years old, so what the hell do I know? I just know what the recruiting services said, and that's what I go with. But everybody knows that John Emery was a number 1 or 2 back in the country coming out of high school, and you've been waiting and waiting and waiting for him to break through. And then you've got this guy that no one ever heard of as of 2 years ago, Josh Williams, who was out there in the spring game running around. You're going, why are we giving the ball to this guy? Because he knows who to block, he knows where to be, and he's going to get you what's blocked. And, hey, he ran really hard on that touchdown that helped him beat Mississippi State. And he's got some given ability. It's just not what Emery has. So, yes, all of us want that, but if I had to put money on who's going to carry the ball more, Josh Williams or John Emery in the game on Saturday, I would take Williams.
Yeah, I mean, you got to go with the safe option, especially with an offense like this. Now, you're playing against just a dead offense where it's kind of like Auburn in some ways, where they put up all the yards in the world but still only managed to score 17 points, didn't even score in the second half. This is not that Tennessee offense. So the last thing you can do is, have players out there, who you don't trust, who you feel like, hey, man, he may miss a guy. That's a strip sack. That changes the game. Oh, if he fumbles on top of that, then now you're just way behind the 8 ball there. So, yeah, I think It's looking like, probably Williams, probably a little bit of Kane in there, but I just still want to see Emery. I think as he continues to get carries, as he continues to, kind of knock those cobwebs off, you could just see him. He's the one that's breaking tackles. He's the one that doesn't look like the other guys. And so hopefully for John, he has a solid week of practice. He can kind of show the coaches he's locked in and ready to play because, I think he's just due to have a big-time football game for the Tigers.
Here is his rushing log from Saturday. This is Emery we're talking about. In the second quarter, he got on the field for the first time, ran for 4 yards. Then he got stuffed on his next carry. Didn't get anything at the goal line. Then Emery rushed for 10 yards in the third quarter, and then a few plays later ripped off the 20-yarder for the touchdown. So at that point, he had a 10-yarder, then a 20-yarder. Then he goes for 3, 2, 5, and 2 on the fumble, and the fumble was the last time he got the football. So, you had 2 where he got loose, and then, of course, had the play where they forgot about him and they flipped it out to him, and he ran it all the way down the sideline where he looked – I don't know if it was the most fundamentally sound thing to do, but the jump over the guy into the field and crashing on the 2-yard line looked really athletic. But the more reps you get, the more likely you are to see the big plays. We'll just have to see if that's in the cards for Saturday.
Yeah, I think you could definitely see the athleticism. Probably not the most conventional way of scoring a touchdown, but you got to appreciate the effort when you get down there to pay dirt. You got to try to find a way to get in there. There's nothing as a running back that's more frustrating than when you get right there on the goal line and you don't get it in. And most of the time, someone else is going to get that touchdown. So you got to try to
vultures.
Yeah, you got to find a way to get it in the end zone. But I kind of seen like John progress. Week by week. Probably wasn't the most dynamic and fascinating guy to see get the ball. When he first got back out there with the team. But as the season's kind of going on, you see him starting to make these splash plays. And so hopefully one of these Saturdays he can kind of put it together. Maybe have one of those 15 touches type performance and goes for over 100, make a couple plays in the pass game. And then I think once that happens, I don't think there's any looking back at that point. I think they would have to roll forward with Mr. Emery.
What do you think Noah Kane's role is going to be here?
Honestly, I think it's going to look a lot like last week. I think you got to see a lot of Kane and probably a lot of Williams. They're going to mix it up in there, run that inside zone up the middle with those guys, and they're going to sprinkle in a little Emery when they can. And if I know Frank Wilson the way I do, whoever's kind of rolling the hottest and probably getting those broken tackles and making some big plays, and that's kind of the guy they're probably going to roll with towards the end of the game. So I think you're going to see a lot of Emery and you're going to see a lot of Kane and Williams early on.
Yeah, I mean, you saw Noah Kane in the first quarter ran for 3 yards twice. They put him in for 1 carry in the second quarter, and then he got 2 carries in the third quarter, a 7-yarder and a 9-yarder. So, fairly productive for those 2 carries there. But again, it was Williams that had 17 carries, and the other 2 backs combined had a total of 13. So you understand kind of where the priority lied on the road against a big-time team. Maybe in a game – well, I say that. I was about to say in a game where you feel like you may be getting into a shootout, you may go with the guy who can make the bigger plays. And as I was getting that out of my mouth, my brain was going, wait. They're not going to allow a sack because you're not in the right place in pass protection, or heaven forbid a fumble and give them a short field. So it made me retrack and go, wait a second. No, I think they just trust the other player. That's kind of what I think.
Yeah, it is. And it's just for coaches, that's kind of the stuff that keeps them up at night. When you got a guy kind of, if they're not 100% sound in the pass protection stuff, you feel like you're going to get your quarterback hit in the head. That's all we talked about in the NFL. Don't get the quarterback hit in the head. And you just saw what happened to Tua. That's the last thing you want to have as your quarterback getting hit because the back isn't picking up in protection. And then you can't parlay that with fumbling the football. It's like the absolute 2 worst thing. You cannot be able to run a lick. You can get tackled by your shoestrings every single play. If you go out there and miss your pass protection, you go out there fumbling the ball, you just will never play. And that goes for every level of football. So, like I said before, hopefully John can kind of, soothe some of those, worries with the coaches this week, because I just think he's the most dynamic back we have. We got to get that guy going.
And I don't know that Emery's terrible in pass protection. I just know how much they know that Williams is good in pass protection. And we were talking about early, you can't just put him in to pass. You've got to have the threat to run as well. So just something that's going to kind of work itself out organically throughout the season, and we'll see if things kind of shift at any point as we play more games and as Kane and Emery maybe get a little bit more comfortable. We'll just have to see.
Thanks so much for watching Hunt and Hill on YouTube.
Now do us a favor. Hit the red subscribe button below and throw us a like. We'll see you next time.